So since the past 2 weeks what we were covering is RSA algorithm, then we studied attacks on them in brief, and we also studied Diffie-Hellman key exchange algorithm. So all these were part of which topic? Asymmetric key cryptography. So what is asymmetric key cryptography is, we have two keys basically, one is public key and we have private key, and there is a relation between the two keys. Okay, so that we studied, and we also studied problem of key exchange or key agreement. So for that, what is the solution? That is Diffie-Hellman key exchange algorithm. So we are done. That was part 5.1, 5.2 and 5.3. So we'll start with the last part of the fifth module, which is 5.4. So that is related with message integrity, authentication and hash functions. Okay, so let's start with this. So let's proceed to the next slide. So first thing, what is integrity, right? So you have already seen what is integrity, so I will just recapitulate that for you so that we are on the same page. I hope I get the PPT. So which was it? Encryption. Yeah, I got it. So we first studied there should be need for security, then evolution, what are the problems faced. We saw that Russian attacker example called Maxim, where he published some of the credit card numbers. So then we came to the important topic, which is security goals, right? And I had made a clear demarcation between goals and security, if you remember. So what are the security goals? Confidentiality, integrity and authentication. So here we touched upon integrity at the first phase. So if A want to send the message to B and it is a very secure message, what we would like, that it would A and B will like to make sure that no one can tamper with the contents of the message or check, which was in this example. So this is the principle of integrity, right? So for example, if it is a check, the amount, date, signature, name of the pay, etc. should be same. Otherwise, for example, if the name is changed, the amount will get credited to someone else's account than desired. So this is integrity, right? So when the contents of a message are changed after the sender sends it, but before it reaches the intended recipient, we say that the integrity of message is lost. For example, if we write a check of $100, right, and if it is changed by someone to $1,000 before going to the intended recipient, and the intended recipient does not come to know, then we say that integrity is lost, right? So if A wants to send a message to B, ideal route of the message should be this black arrow, right? So what is the message? Transfer $100 to D, right? But someone intercepts that message, and it not only intercepts that message, what it does is he changes the message from $100 to $1,000. On top of that, he changes the D to C also. So that is what we call it as integrity is lost. So this is type of attack is called as modification, right? So this is just a small recapitulation of what we have done. So let's start with the actual topic. Okay, so as usual, let me take the pointer. Okay, so again this is not going off. So have I done it last time? People on the taskbar. Yeah, taskbar settings. Yeah, yeah. So we are fine. So what is message integrity? The cryptography systems that we have studied so far provide secrecy or confidentiality, right? So but not integrity, right? For example, we studied RSA algorithm, we studied Diffie-Hellman key exchange. We talked about the security of the keys, and that the message is not getting intercepted by someone. So we talked about confidentiality, but we did not talk about integrity, whether the message is getting changed or something. Okay, we just said that it is getting encrypted, so no one will be able to decrypt it, so no one is able to change the read the contents of the message. But we didn't talk about changing the contents of the message, right? So we didn't talk about integrity, right? So that is the topic this relates with, right? So however, there are occasions where we may not even need secrecy or confidentiality, but instead must have integrity. So very simple example is, Alice may write a will to distribute her estate upon her death, Okay, so what is a will? So someone, if he knows he is going to die or his age has come up, so what he does, he writes a will stating that this and this person should get this of my property, this much, this person should get this much money, and so on, right? So that is called as a will. So the will does not need to be encrypted, it can be seen by anyone, right? So after her death, anyone can examine the will. The integrity of the will, however, needs to be preserved. That is, whatever contents are there in the will, those are very important. They should not be tampered with or changed with, right? So Alice does not want the contents of the will to be changed. So that is why integrity is important here, but confidentiality is not important, right? So therein comes the concept of document and fingerprint. So this is a way to preserve the integrity of the message. So one way to preserve the integrity of a document is through the use of a fingerprint. So how this works is, again we'll take the Alex example. So if Alex needs to be sure that the contents of a document will not be changed, she can put her fingerprint at the bottom of the document. So even Eve cannot modify the contents of this document or create a false document, because she cannot force Alex's fingerprint, right? Because it is unique. So to ensure that the document has not been changed, Ali's fingerprint on the document can be compared to Ali's fingerprint on a specified file. So if they are not the same, the document is not from Alice. Okay. So this is just a crude example. Remember what is actually this fingerprint, etc. We'll see in the coming slides. Okay. So this is just a crude example to explain the concept of message integrity. So what this fingerprint actually is, it is called as message digest. So let's see what is a message and a message digest. So the electronic equivalent of the document and fingerprint pair is the message and the digest pair. So the document is the message, right? And the fingerprint is the message digest. Okay. So that is shown here. So message is the document and message digest is the fingerprint. So what is the hash function that we need to see? So to preserve the integrity of the message is passed through an algorithm called a cryptographic hash function. Okay. So what is happening? I have the message, I give it as an input to some function which is called as hash function. So obviously the contents are changed, so I get something called as message digest. Okay. So this is called as the message digest, which is nothing but our fingerprint in the previous example. So the function creates a compressed image of the message that can be used like a fingerprint. Okay. So figure shows the message, cryptographic hash function, and the message digest, which we have already seen. So this is about message and message digest, right? So the two pies which we saw just now, document and fingerprint, and message or message digest, are similar, but there are some differences. Okay. So the document and fingerprint are physically linked together. So that is, the message and the message digest are physically linked together, but they can be unlinked or sent separately. So because you have a message and you have a message digest, so you can send them separately, right? So and most importantly, the message digest needs to be safe from change, right? Why? Because this is the fingerprint, so it should not be tampered with, right? So that is the reason it needs to be safe from change. That is why I have made it in bold. And why it should be not changed? Why it should not be changed? Because it helps in maintaining the integrity, which is the crux of today's lecture and this week, right? So again, why message digest needs to be safe from changes? It should preserve the integrity of the message. That's why message digest should be kept safe from change. So then how to check the integrity? That is the next obvious question. So to check the integrity of a message or document, we run the cryptographic hash function again at the receiver side and compare the new message digest with the previous one. So very simple. So if both are same, we are sure that the original message has not been changed. So I have a current message, I use the hash function, and I have a current digest, right? So I have the message digest, right? So I send it to the receiver, right? So what does the receiver do? He checks the message digest, right? And he has the previous digest. Okay. So if they are same, what is the conclusion? Message is not changed. If they are not same, means the message is changed, so it is not reliable, so discard it, right? So that is how this hash functions work. So we'll see this in greater detail. So based on these hash functions, to check whether they are reliable, we have some criteria. So they must satisfy three criteria: pre-image resistance, second pre-image resistance, and collision resistance. So all these three resistances should be satisfied, then only we can say that the hash function is reliable. So let's see these resistances one by one. So a cryptographic hash function must be pre-image resistance, as we said. So given a hash function y equal to h of m, it must be extremely difficult for Eve to find any message, any other message m prime to be precise, so that y equal to h of m prime. So if you have not understood this, it is very simple to understand from the diagram. So I have a message, so I apply a hash function to it. What will I get? A message digest, so which is denoted by y equal to h of m. So this is what Alice has done. Okay, so he sends it to Bob, right? And Eve is able to intercept this message. Okay, so he has got y, right? So what he does, he tries to find m prime. Okay, so the process of finding this m prime, it should be very difficult for Eve. So that is what this pre-image resistance is saying. So if so basically you can think, if you are thinking in terms of encryption and decryption, it should be very hard to decrypt, right? So for example, RSA algorithm is very hard to decrypt, it will take years to decrypt. So in the same way, it should be very difficult for Eve to find any sort of message, even though wrong, from this hash function. So that is the idea of pre-image resistance. Okay, so next is second pre-image resistance. So the second criterion, second pre-image resistance, ensures that the message cannot easily be forged. So it gives us the guarantee that the message is not forged. Okay, so if Alice creates a message and a digest and sends both to Bob, so both he is sending, remember, this criterion ensures that Eve cannot easily create another message that hashes to the exact same digest. So it might be hard to understand here, so again we'll go to the image in some time. So in other words, given a specific message and its digest, it is impossible to create another message with the same digest. So that is what this second pre-image resistance is. So this criteria should also be satisfied. So what is this? Let's see with a very simple example. So again, Alice wants to send a message to Bob. So Eve intercepts or has access to a message m and is as well as its digest. That is what is assumed here. So Alice has a message m and it says h of m. So he takes them together and tries to send to Bob. Okay, but Eve intercepts that message. Okay, so he has the message as well as his digest. Okay, so what it does, he creates another message which is m prime, so not equal. So he has that m prime, but h of m equal to h of m prime, right? So he sends the m prime and h of m prime to Bob, right? So what will Bob say? That I have the h of m and h of, so he has actual sent was h of m, and he changed the message to h of m prime, so it is sent to Bob. So Bob may not be able to check that the message is different, right? So actually what has happened, he has forged the message, right? Because the hash function has come out to be same, so Bob is not able to check whether the message is actually same, right? Even though the hash message is same, right? So this is how he has forged the message. So if this happens, this condition is not satisfied. So the second condition is that this second pre-image resistance should also be satisfied. Okay, so the third criterion is collision resistance. What it does, it ensures that Eve cannot find two messages that hash to the same digest. Okay, so and nothing is given to Eve here, remember. Okay, so here the adversary can create two messages out of scratch, so he can just speculate it, I can say, and hash to the same digest. For the moment, suppose two different wills can be created that hash to the same digest. So you have two different information, for example two different wills, and if you apply hash function to them, what you get is the same hash function, h of m and h of m prime, for example. So when the time comes for the execution of will, what will happen? The second forced will is presented to the hash, and since they hash to the same digest, it will not be known. So because the digest matches both wills, the substitution is undetected, as I said. So what does Eve do? He has access to the h of hash function, so he tries to find m and m prime. Sorry, he does not have access to anything. Okay, so what it does, he tries to find m and m prime such that m not equal to m prime but h of m equal to h of m prime. So what is the difference here? So if you observe both the things, here find criteria is same, but what is the difference? That the given, nothing is given to Eve. Okay, so he just speculates what might be the messages. That is the difference here. Okay, so these three conditions should be satisfied. Okay, so far we have seen what is the hash function, right? But that is nothing that can prove the integrity of the message anyways, right? So that's why we use a modification detection code. So it is nothing but again a message digest, but it can prove the integrity of message. Okay, so that message has not been changed. Okay, so this adds a extra layer of security, we can see. So if Alice needs to send a message to Bob and be sure that the message will not change during transmission, Alice can create a message digest MDC and send both the message and MDC to Bob. So again the message, for example, is a will, so it is not important, so it can be sent through an insecure channel. Okay, so Bob can create a new MDC from the message and compare the received MDC and new MDC. So if they are same, the message has not been changed. So again you might not understand what is written here, so see the image, and in the exam also you can draw the image. Okay, so what we'll doing, Alice wants to send a message to Bob, so he sends the message through an insecure channel, but he wants to keep the integrity of the message intact. So what he does, he hashes the function which a hash function, and from that hash function he generates a MDC, which is what, modification detection code. So he sends this channel which is through a channel which is immune to change. Okay, so this has to be immune to change. So MDC is received by Bob, right? So he has the message, so he again uses the same hash function, so he gets the MDC because it will generate the same MDC. So if they are same, the message is accepted because the integrity is not lost, and if it is not same, we reject it. Okay, so this is how modification detection code comes into picture. So we'll again see an example. So figure shows that the message can be transferred through an insecure channel, so you can read or even modify the message. Okay, so the MDC however needs to be transferred through a safe channel, right? So this term safe here means immune to change, right? So if both the message and MDC are sent through the insecure channel, what will happen? A can intercept the message, he can even change it, create a new MDC from the message and send both to Bob. So Bob never knows that the message has come from him, right? So this is fairly simple to understand. So next, Alice writes a will and announces it publicly in secure channel. So this is the actual example we are taking now. So message is the will, so which is written by Alice and sent to Bob. So it is sent through insecure channel. So what is happening? Alice makes an MDC from the message and deposits it with her attorney. So what we are trying to avoid is this problem, that the Bob never knows the message has come from him. So what we do, we take a third party. So Alice makes an MDC from the message and deposits it with her attorney, which is kept until her death. So this acts like a secure channel. So although Eve may change the contents of the will, so let's say through the insecure channel Eve has changed the contents of the will. So what will the attorney do? He can create a MDC from the will and prove that Eve's version is forgery, right? So from this immune to change channel, the attorney has come even though Alice is not there now. So he creates a MDC from the will and proves that Eve version is forgery. How he can prove? So this MDC and this MDC will obviously be different if this message has been changed, right? Even though the hash function is same, so they will not come out to be same, so we can reject, right? So if the cryptography hash function used to create the MDC has the three properties described at the beginning of this chapter, Eve will lose, right? So obviously this MDC will have the three criteria which we saw just now: pre-image resistance, second pre-image resistance, and collision resistance. So that's why Eve will lose. That is what stated here. So next thing apart from MDC which we require is, it is the message authentication code, MAC. Remember, it is not the MAC address which you study in communication networks, CCN. It is different MAC, which is message authentication code. Another mistake which students do is usually in the full form which they write for MDC and MAC. They usually write message detection code for MDC. It is not the message detection code. What is it? Modification detection code. And what is MAC? It is message authentication code. Okay, so make sure you don't do this mistake. So to ensure the integrity of the message and the data origin authentication. Now what is data origin authentication? The place from which the data is originated. So Alice is the originator of the message, not somebody else. So this is data origin authentication. So what we need to do to ensure the integrity of the message, we need to change a modification detection code to a message authentication code. Okay, so the difference between MDC and MAC is what? That the second includes a secret between Alice and Bob. So you are adding one more layer of security. For example, a secret key that Eve does not possess. Okay, so you have the message and the hash function as usual, but we have added an extra layer of security which is the key. Okay, so from this we are now creating a MAC. Remember, if you only have a message and a hash, from that MDC will be created. But apart from message and hash, if you are giving the key as input, what will be created is a MAC. So this message and the MAC as well is sent through the insecure channel. So message and MAC is received by Bob. So what it does to change the check the integrity is the message he has. So he uses the hash function and key. It will be available with Bob. So we'll get the MAC, right? So as the MAC also, so we'll check if the MAC is same. So if the MAC is same, again we can accept the message because the MAC have come out to be same. If not, we reject it, right? So this is a simple concept of message authentication code, again to add a extra layer of security, right? So let's again see an example. So Alice uses a hash function to create a MAC from the concatenation of the key and message. So message, key and hash, so what will be generated? MAC and not MDC, right? So this is sent through insecure channel to Bob, right? So again from the message and the hash and key, MAC will be generated. So this MAC is also available to Bob. If they are same, again the message is authentic and has not been modified by an adversary, right? For example, E. So this is the concept of message authentication code. The important thing here is we are using one single channel, which is the insecure channel. So note that there is no need to use two channels in this case. Both message and MAC can be sent on the same insecure channel. Eve can see the message, right? But what is the thing? But she cannot forward a new message to replace it. Why? Because she doesn't have access to the key. Because Eve does not possess the secret key between Alice and Bob. She is unable to create the same MAC as Alice did. Why? Because she does not have that single thing, which is what? The key. So that is how this integrity is preserved. Okay. So the MAC we have described is referred to as a prefix MAC. Why? Because the secret key is appended to the beginning of the message, right? Sorry. So we can have a postfix MAC also, in which the key is appended to the end of the message. Okay. So it is just a extension, so we don't discuss it. So we can combine the prefix and postfix MACs also with the same key or two different keys to increase the further the security. Okay. But even though we have said we have increased the security, strictly speaking, the resulting MACs are still insecure. So why they are still insecure, that we'll see in the next lecture. Okay. So what we have seen today is how we preserve the integrity of the message. What we'll see in the next lecture, I have given a hint that the MACs are still insecure, so we'll try to increase the security of them. Okay. So we'll stop here.